A man in a black vest moves through a crowded Vienna cafe in 1927. He carries no notepad, takes orders for 12 people at once, remembering every modification and every side dish. His mind is a steel trap for the incomplete. He knows exactly who hasn't received their strudel and who is waiting for more coffee. But 5 minutes after the bill is paid, that knowledge evaporates. If you asked him what the lady at table 68, he would look at you with total blankness. He hasn't forgotten. His brain has simply deleted the file the moment the transaction was resolved. You are running that same software today. It is why you can't forget a project that's halfway done, but you can't remember what you did all day Monday. This is the Zeigarnik Effect. It is the hidden architecture of your focus, and it is currently being used against you. Welcome to O's. Today we are exploring why your brain refuses to let go of what you haven't finished. In 1927, Soviet psychologist Bloomer Zeigarnik sat in that cafe with her mentor Kurt Lewin. They watched the waiters with the precision of biologists observing a new species. They realized that starting a task creates a specific psychological tension. This tension remains active in the mind like a live wire until the task is closed. Zeigarnik took this theory to the laboratory to see if it held up under scrutiny. She gave children and adults 20 different tasks to perform. Some were asked to solve math problems. Others were told to string beads or assemble complex puzzles. But Zeigarnik added a cruel twist. She allowed the participants to finish only half of the assignments. For the other half, she would step in and stop them. She would snatch the beads away right before the final one was threaded. When she later tested their memory, the data was undeniable. Participants remembered the unfinished tasks 90% better than the ones they had actually completed. The brain didn't care about the successes. It was haunted by the interruptions. Kurt Lewin called this the field of tension. He believed that an unfinished task creates a high-pressure state within our mental environment. When we finish something, we discharge that tension. The mental file is closed, and the energy is released back into the system. But when a task is left hanging, the tension stays charged. Your brain keeps the information in its active buffer, waiting for the moment it can finally let go. This is why a list of 5 unfinished tasks feels more exhausting than 10 tasks you've already checked off. Every open loop occupies space in your working memory. We're walking around with a heavy cognitive load that you cannot see. It is the weight of every email you started but never hit send on. Think about the last time you woke up at 3 a.m. Your heart is racing, and suddenly you remember that you forgot to mail a specific document. That isn't a random glitch. That is your Zeigarnik effect scanning for open files in the quiet of the night. Your brain is trying to protect you. It thinks that if it stops thinking about that unfinished document, you might lose your place in the social hierarchy. This was an incredible survival mechanism for our ancestors. If you were interrupted while building a shelter or tracking a deer, your brain needed to keep that goal hot. But we no longer live in a world of simple, linear tasks. We live in a world of infinite loops designed to never let you find closure. Our ancient software is struggling to run on the modern hardware of the attention economy, and the people who build your favorite apps know exactly how to trigger this itch. They have taken this 1927 discovery and turned it into a weapon. They have turned your need for completion into a product you can never finish consuming. The cliffhanger isn't just a writing trick. It is a biological lock that you are desperate to turn. But the worst part isn't that your memory is being hijacked. It's that your very will to act is being funneled into loops that have no end. You feel this funneling as a physical itch in the back of your skull. It is the Evolutionary effect. While Zeigarnik discovered that we remember the unfinished, Maria Evolutionary found something more dangerous. We are biologically compelled to return to it. Her research showed a 67% resumption rate. Participants weren't just remembering the broken task. They were haunted by an internal pressure to finish. This is not a choice you make. It is a field of tension that remains charged in your psyche until the loop is closed. In the ancient world, this tension kept us alive. If you were interrupted while tracking a predator, your brain stayed locked on for survival. Today, that survival mechanism is harvested by engineers in Silicon Valley. They've mapped the geometry of your dissatisfaction to keep you clicking. Think about the last time a Netflix episode ended on a cliffhanger. That hollow needing to know is an open biological lock. Your brain treats a fictional character's fate like a survival loop. The play next episode button is the only way to discharge that tension. You aren't watching for pleasure, you're watching for biological relief. This is the open loop economy. It thrives because your working memory has a limited capacity, easily overwhelmed by incompletion. Every unfinished task and progress bar sits in your mind like an open program on a dying laptop. This cognitive load is why 5 unfinished chores feel more exhausting than 10 completed projects. Your brain is working to keep those files active. Your phone's red notification bubbles are digital Ovsiankina pressure, pulling at your primitive brain. You tap them not because you care, but to make the agitation disappear. You are scratching a biological itch. Even gaming side quests or daily streaks act as a leash. If you break the streak, the loop remains open in your subconscious. The ancient software interprets this as a failure to secure a resource. This tension follows you into the darkness of your bedroom. It is the hidden architect behind your 3 a.m. wake-up calls. When the world goes quiet, your brain begins a frantic system scan. It looks for every unpaid bill or unresolved argument lingering in your memory. These are the open files demanding resolution. Your hippocampus brings them to the spotlight, demanding you fix them now. This is effective rumination, the tyranny of the should. You lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of a dozen unfinished stories. Your body wants sleep, but your brain is charged. In relationships, this is why ghosting feels like a physical wound. The story was cut mid-sentence, and your mind is screaming for closure. We are living in a stadium of popcorn kernels. We are overstimulated, overtensioned, and psychologically crowded. We've become a species that is perpetually almost finished. That state of almost is the most profitable place for a corporation to keep you. But this biological lock has a master key. It turns out, the ancient parts of your brain are surprisingly easy to deceive. You don't actually have to finish the task to silence the alarm. You just have to convince your subconscious that a finish line exists. Recent breakthroughs suggest that tension isn't released by action. It is released by the concrete certainty of a plan. There is a way to close the files without doing the work today. There is a way to trick the software into letting you rest. It starts with understanding that your brain doesn't distinguish between a finished task and a bulletproof promise to complete it later. Realize how deeply these open loops have burrowed into your routine. You are a complex map of unfinished things, but the path to closure isn't found in doing more. It's found in a clinical trick of the light. Your brain is a meticulous accountant, but it is also surprisingly gullible. In 2011, researchers Mazzacampo and Baumeister proved that your mind doesn't require you to finish a task to stop screaming. The brain only requires you to make a concrete, credible plan for how you will finish it later. It acts as a release valve. A thought like "I'll do it later" is a ghost that haunts your working memory. It provides absolutely no relief to the subconscious. But if you write down the specific when, where, and how, the psychological pressure drops instantly. You must tell the brain exactly when you will act. This specific instruction acts as a discharge for the mental tension. Suddenly, the open loop is treated as a closed case, even if the work remains. You have hacked the Zeigarnik Effect. You have freed up the cognitive load that was draining your internal battery while you tried to sleep. This is why your 3 a.m. wake-up calls are so persistent. Your brain uses the silence of the night to scan for every unresolved stressor. It brings these fragments to the spotlight, demanding resolution. It is trying to survive by closing the circuit. Every open loop you carry occupies space in your working memory. A list of 5 unfinished tasks feels more exhausting than 10 completed ones. There is a name for this instinctual urge to resume what we started: the Ovsiankina effect of the mind. Research shows a massive 67% resumption rate. It is a biological itch that demands a scratch, regardless of how tired you feel. You can turn this primitive itch into a modern superpower. Consider the Hemingway trick, a favorite method of the legendary author. Ernest Hemingway would famously stop writing in the middle of a sentence. He never finished his day at a natural stopping point. By leaving the thought unfinished, he kept the tension charged in his mind overnight. The open loop pulled him back to the desk the next morning. His brain spent the night trying to finish that single sentence. It made starting easy, because the software was already running at full speed. Apply this to your own life. Stop your work when your momentum is at its peak, not when you are completely drained. If you find yourself procrastinating on a daunting project, use the 10-minute rule. Commit to just 10 minutes of work to open the loop. Once the circuit is open, the Zeigarnik tension begins to work for you. It becomes psychologically harder to stop than it is to continue. We live in an economy that has weaponized this ancient architecture. Every cliffhanger and progress bar is a hook in your mind. Tech companies know you cannot look away from a story without an ending. They use open loops to keep you scrolling against your will. But now that you see the hidden machinery, the spell is broken. You are no longer just a biological machine. You can choose which loops to open and which to strategically close. You can silence the midnight noise with a concrete plan. The world is designed to keep you in a state of perpetual incompletion. It wants you focused on the next goal. But true peace is found in the discharge of that tension. It is the moment you realize closure is a cognitive need you can fulfill. You are the architect of your own attention and your own rest. You decide which files stay open when the lights go out. The tension you feel isn't a flaw. It is an ancient survival mechanism working exactly as it was designed. You can see the game now. What happens next is entirely up to you. If you found this valuable, subscribe to OS. We explore the hidden systems that define our lives. Click the notification bell. Your evolution depends on what you understand. Stay curious. Stay aware. I'll see you in the next.